From the studios of Adaba FM. Good afternoon and welcome to today's edition of the Roundtable. My name is Dimeji Daniels and this is welcome you to this week's edition of the Roundtable. You recall that Executive Secretary, Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, that is Mohammed Shehu, while speaking at the launch of Kudirat Abiola Sabongeri Peace Foundation in Kaduna State, said the advocates of restructuring are dangerous and naive. It was, in fact, speaking on behalf of President Muhammadu Buhari because he represented the president at that event. That is what we'll be talking about on the program today. I'm being joined in the studio by Zaddok Akintoye. I'm also expecting another of my guests, Mr. Tosin Jagede. Also, I spoke on the phone with the Secretary General of Afenifere, that is Chief Shola Ebisheni. You'll be listening to all that in the course of the program. But before I turn to my studio guest, let's quickly listen to the comment by Mohammed Shehu, who represented President Muhammadu Buhari at the launch of Kudirat Abiola Sabongeri Peace Foundation.
Those who are discussing restructuring, my question always to them is that, what are you trying to restructure? If you ask about 10, 20 different Nigerians, what is their idea of restructuring? You find that they have no idea what they are talking about. Some of them have not even studied the 1999 Constitution. The 1999 Constitution is almost 70 to 80% 1979 Constitution. And it's not true that the Constitution was shoved to us by the military. There is no military man in the drafting of Nigerian Constitution, whether the one of 1978 to 1979 or the one in 1979, in 1999. Those were done by credible Nigerians, lawyers, technocrats, and civilians. So it's okay to demand for restructuring, and it's okay to demand for review of the Constitution. But what is most important now is how can the Nigerian state make local government functional like local government used to be? How can Nigerian state make judiciary independent? These are the issues. When we were children, local governments used to do a lot of things. But like Mr. President has said, now you have a situation where a governor allocation will come to a local government, whether it's 500 billion or 600 billion, the governor will say to the chairman, okay, I have earmarked this project, that project, and then leave the chairman of the local government with 10%. And this is the greatest undoing of our system. So rather, I would ask Nigerians to focus on putting pressure on National Assembly members to make sure that that autonomy as enshrined in our Constitution is respected and is implemented. And similarly, that of judiciary. So if that were to be done, some of these things, like the issue of security, you will find a local government chairman in collaboration with the emirs and all the traditional rulers will have a great chain of communication where they will really understand what is going on in their locality. So these are the things that I will urge all those agitators that are calling for restructuring. And I said also that majority of those calling for restructuring are people that have did their service, they left, their ex this, ex that. They are so afraid to go into partisan politics. And even if they were to go into partisan politics, they will not win, even in their own locality. So there is no government in the world that will cede their authority to people that are unelected. You are telling us that to dissolve a system and then call for some obscure national conference to come and discuss how we move forward as a nation. That can never be done, and no government will agree to that. So even those who are calling for this, they should go back through their representatives, whether it's in House of Assembly, whether it's in National Assembly, whether it's in the Senate, and lobby and say whatever amendments they want to be done to the Constitution they follow through the process and lobby like every other person. So we are fully integrated as a people. And look at the properties that everybody has around. Some of the Igbos here in Zaria, Kano, Kaduna, and other places, they have more properties and businesses here than even in their own area. And similarly, the same with some Yorubas.
Okay, you just listened to the Executive Secretary of Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, speaking at the launch of Kudirat Abiola Sebongeri Peace Foundation. Like I said earlier, he represented President Muhammadu Buhari on that occasion. Mr. Zaddok Akintoye, you're welcome on the program.
Thank you for having me, Mr.
You just listened to that. He said it is assumed that he, like I said, he spoke on behalf of the president. So that is why Nigerians are ascribing everything the man said at the launch at that program in Kaduna State to President Muhammadu Buhari. Is it true that most Nigerians, like you said, don't understand what restructuring is all about?
There are over 200 million Nigerians. And so it will be assumed in a democracy as we have in Nigeria that the larger majority of opinions would naturally dictate where the nation is moving to. It's just one individual whose opinion is assumed to be the opinion of the president. And the president is just one dot in the 200 million Nigerians. And so the opinion of the president or the opinion of this gentleman cannot supersede the general opinion of regions in Nigeria that are asking for restructuring. He seems not to understand the basis upon which Nigerians are asking for restructuring. He thinks that Nigerians are saying that let's us divide Nigeria into Hausa states, Fulani states, Igbo states. No, Nigerians are simply saying that if we have run a system for 60 years and it has not worked, why don't we look at recreating that system? It will be easy for somebody in his position as a northerner, as a beneficiary of the same quota system within the Nigerian country that allows whoever the president is to, against the principles of justice, equity, and fairness, to put his brothers in positions where they begin to assume their right of authority over the Nigerian state. It will be understood where he's coming from. But he needs to also understand this very clearly, that in the Euro 2021 that is currently on, the United Kingdom, where the president goes to always for medical attention, has 3 of its component units vying as independent nations in the Euro Cup. You have Wales, you have Scotland, you have England. All of these 3 units contesting in that competition as independent nations are still one body as United Kingdom. So what Nigerians are asking for is, let us look at workable systems within the Nigerian state where we don't cede power, for instance, to a federal government, which makes all Nigerians subject of whosoever becomes the president of the country. So much power that the man in Abuja, who is from Katsina, would have to determine what happens to the man in Idori, or the man in Owo, or the man in the creeks of Bayelsa, where he has never been to. He doesn't even know them. He can't identify them. He doesn't know what they are going through. So these are the things Nigerians are asking for. So he may not really understand what Nigerians are asking for. It will also be, he can't be excused. He's comfortable. He's feeding on federal government. He's an employee of government. He will be bound to seek to uphold an opinion that will suit his paymaster.
In his comment, he said that what Nigerians should be asking for at this time is the functional local government. Nigerians should be talking. I guess he was referring to local government autonomy. He also mentioned an independent judiciary. But can those 2 things answer the question of restructuring in Nigeria?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. What he is asking for is that we should take a compromise option. It's the same thing the military used to do when they create states. When they find that citizens were coming together civilly to oppose government, then they distract us by bringing state police. State creation. so that distracts us. We are given something to focus on while we forget about the fact that the country wasn't working under the military. It's the same thing he's saying. Let us look at local government. That is not the solution to the problem. Independence of the local government in its isolation is not the solution to the problem. The solution to the problem is that every state that is developed, every nation that develops out of competition. It is competition that makes us build better houses than our neighbors, which overall has to the value of the society where we live in, makes it more developed. Nigerians are not competing interregionally. Nigerians in the southwest are comfortable eating cheap tomatoes, eating cheap onion, being fed by somebody who is far, far, far away, forgetting the fact that the farther the food is from you, the more expensive it will be. The Nigerians in the north are very comfortable feeding on the oil that comes from the Niger Delta. They don't need to do more. They don't need to struggle against the principles of nature that wants to take their lives. So they are not creating solutions. We're all comfortable, and I can be comfortable. And so we must, because we are in a democracy, we must provide an opportunity for all of us to sit down together to discuss it, which is where people are agitating for a national conference. A national conference is still cheaper than violent agitation. Let us sit down.
He said that everybody, I don't know if you listen to this comment very well. He said there's nowhere in the country where elected representatives will allow those who are not in government, who are not elected, to dictate to them. And he did say that people should turn to the National Assembly, to their representatives. There is an ongoing consultation. There are ongoing consultations on constitutional amendment.
Yes.
Can that solve all the agitations of Nigerians? Can that take care of restructuring?
I will be ashamed of my education, and I would expect the gentleman also to be a bit bothered about his education if he does not understand the principles of representation. The power of representation is not in the representatives. It is in the constituency that sends him there. So the representatives cannot say, and I think it must have been misquoted, that the people that they are representing cannot dictate to them. A representative is just equal to saying you have a megad at the door. Does the megad tell you that because he lives here and he opens the gate, he's the owner of the house? So I think he should go back to questioning that rationale. The rationale behind his conclusion that the National Assembly automatically becomes the decision-taking body or the one that will determine the fate of their people. It's not so.
The conference that...
Look,
okay.
The representatives, because we are operating a democracy and a federal system, it has become important that the various ethnic units in Nigeria must be represented in the central government. And that is why we cannot have multiple presidents. We can only have representatives to a National Assembly. That is why it is called the National Assembly. So that the Doriman is able to have chooses somebody from their home place who goes to be the representatives of the opinion of the Doriman. The fact that somebody in Katsina says that something is good for him does not mean that the man in Owo, in Idore, in Ilaje must concede that it is good for him also. That is the principles upon which the National Assembly is created. National Assembly members are subject to the dictate of the people they represent. Unfortunately, in the lopsided democracy we practice in Nigeria, which is a democracy that is hinged on ignorance and poverty. And that's why I keep saying that every poor society creates a poor democracy. It creates a jam democracy. It creates a democracy of what is in my stomach. That is why a representative comes back to his constituency, and then the constituency will call people to come and dance. Dance for who? He is not better than anyone of us.
Talking about conference, this is not the first time. This will not be the first time that Nigerians will be calling for conference. Yes. We had one other, Jonathan, and that was not the first one. Will it not be possible? Okay, let me phrase it this way. Are you saying that the National Assembly cannot take care of all these agitations?
They will not. They will not. Look, they are a product of the injustices that defines Nigeria. It is easy.
What have you gotten from the conferences before now?
The thing is that the political will. Look, let me tell you one place where the problem is. The military came into Nigeria and met a particular number of states. They divided Gongola State, for instance, which was in the northeast, and divided it into Adamawa and one other state. By dividing it, they create 2 different states, and then giving those 2 states equal representation in the National Assembly. They created an unjust Nigeria, where the northern hemisphere of Nigeria has more representation. So anything that is going to challenge the beneficial status quo for the north will not scale through. Before the president cannot say that we have done a conference, let us make it law. It has to still go to the National Assembly, where personal interests, regional interests, sentiments of religion will dictate what the representatives in the assembly will do. And obviously, stomach infrastructure. Those who are paying them to ensure that the status quo, where people are bleeding and looting Nigeria from one region to the other, will always finance them. Look, I ask a question, and I ask it publicly here again. What gives somebody in Sokoto the right of the oil in the Niger Delta? What? Don't we have gold in Zamfara? The gold in Zamfara, is it being mined and exploited? And is a commission created to ensure that the wealth that is coming from that gold is shared to the people in the Niger Delta? No. But somebody can, for the basis of Nigeria, justify the reason why somebody in Kuala Mamunda will own oil block in the Niger Delta. It is so wrong. It is the injustices that the National Assembly cannot solve.
So you're saying that there should be this new conference.
The new conference is not debatable.
Whatever they come up at the new conference, definitely will still go to the National Assembly.
That is the unfortunate part.
What's the tradition?
That is the unfortunate part. Because
so what will be different at this time?
They will not look, and I throw this back to citizens. Citizens must realize that when you set a long-term vision for yourself, you begin to actualize that vision from one point. Political representation for the independence of the Nigerian state is very key in electing people to go to the National or State Assembly. You must have people that are first subject to the interest of the community or the region or the demography they represent. You have people who are representing us in the National Assembly and the State Assembly who are representing us just on the basis of political party affiliation. People are in the Ondo State House of Assembly. It's a one-party system in Ondo State. So whatever the boss says is what everybody does. That's why a speaker of an entire assembly, which is the constituent,
so
the true government in any state.
What will be different this time around?
It won't be different because we are able to have a federal government that realizes that the decay that Nigerians are complaining about is because of the system of government that we have. A system of government that is hinged on injustice can never reproduce itself. Don't forget when the new government in power was coming in, they said that they were going to restructure. Because as of 2015, they knew that we were in trouble. And they did give solutions as to what should be done. But the problem is that the political will to drive the vision to save Nigeria is not there. How many of them understand that every developed nation in the world that you see existed and developed only because they were afraid of dying? It was existential necessities that made people to develop. When you go to America, there is a standard for everything. It is that standard because they don't want to be slaves. That is why 400 years after, they are no longer slaves to anybody. Nigeria has not gotten to that state where we realize that we need to, by deliberate means, encourage inter-regional competition for survival. That's why I'm not one of those who would excuse the fact that a northerner would decide not to bring his food here. He is not laboring to provide food for you to eat. He's laboring to provide food for him to collect the money in your pocket. If you cannot feed yourself, then you by nature and by law, if you cannot feed yourself, you are subject to the one who can feed you. There's no excuse about it. Let us discuss, go to a national conference, let the opinion of everybody be heard, and let us agree that the opinion of the people will be the basis upon which a new constitution will be built.
So you're asking for a new constitution?
This constitution cannot stand. This constitution is injustice. This constitution is created, is first. I heard him saying that it was the people that wrote the constitution for who?
Now, it was, like I said, he was speaking on behalf of the president at that occasion. Will it be fair to say that he was speaking the mindset of the president?
I would not want to conclude that he spoke the mind of the president, because I remember very clearly that the president, when he came into power, swore the oath of allegiance.
Because a lot of people are saying that a lot of people are actually ascribing what he said to President Muhammadu Buhari. Fine, he was speaking for the president at the event. So that's why I'm asking you that question. That will it be fair?
I think that the person who sent him on that task should be also fair enough to either concede or, accede to what he has said, that this is what he did,
or to come out and say, this is not my position.
The truth of the matter is that I am no longer shocked by anything that is done by the Nigerian presidency, because it has underscored very clearly everything that is disrespectful to the unity of Nigeria. And I say one thing about that. If we say that we are Nigerians, there are no Fulanis, Hausas, Igbos, Yorubas, Egba. There are no people that are Nigerians by ancestry. But we are Nigerians because it has been said that we are Nigerians by those who gave us independence. Now, the most important element in that Nigeria story, for it to survive, is the principles of justice, equity, fairness. Any government, irrespective of what political party, that is seen to be unjust to the principles of equality amongst Nigerians, the principles of federal character, the principles of justice, equity, and fairness, that government cannot be said to be defending the Nigerian story. Nigerians must be made. Nigerians that are Ikales, Nigerians that are Ishekiris, Nigerians that are Urobo, whichever way you are from, whether from the north, the south, the east, or west, there must be something that makes the Nigerian story beautiful for you. And that thing is justice. When injustice is done by any government, and that government becomes so bold enough as to disrespect the sentiments and emotions of Nigeria, that government cannot be said to be defending Nigerians.
Okay, before we go further, let's quickly listen to my interview, my phone interview with the Secretary General of Afenifere, Chief Shola Ebisheni.
Chief Shola Ebisheni, a legal practitioner and the General Secretary of Afenifere. So I read your comment in the paper where you were referring to comments made by Mohammed Shehu, the Chairman of Revenue Mobilization and Allocation Commission, who was speaking in Kaduna on behalf of President Muhammadu Buhari, where he said that there's nothing to restructure in Nigeria and that those clamoring for restructuring are dangerous and naive. In the statement you issued on behalf of Afenifere, you noted that restructuring cannot be at the pleasure of President Muhammadu Buhari. What does that mean?
Well, first and foremost, we do not want to go the same route with the so-called spokesperson to Mr. President in his uncouth language in describing the proponents of restructuring. In the first place, he is the Secretary of the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission. He probably presides over an agency of government which distributes the revenue of the Federation by a man whose state probably contributes nothing to the revenue of the Federation. But be that as it may, our position in the Afenifere and by most ethnic nationalities in Nigeria, and I say that because we are in tandem with the leaders of the Southern States and the Middle Belt Forum, on the ground that Nigeria is ripe for restructuring, that Nigeria became a state on the foundational principles of true federalism by the founding fathers of the Nigerian state. And that most of the problem bedeviling us in Nigeria today is because we have jettisoned that memorandum of understanding that is the Constitution of Nigeria, which brought us together as federating units constituted by the ethnic nationalities of Nigeria. We said restructuring will not be at the pleasure of Mr. President or at the whims and caprices of his officials. That is a true statement, because there is no moving forward in Nigeria without restructuring.
One of the things that he said was that what Nigerians should be fighting for is to make local government more functional. I guess he was talking about the autonomy of local government and making the judiciary independent. Do you think that those two things that he mentioned will truly answer the question of restructuring in Nigeria?
He was not talking about functionality of the local governments or of the judiciary. He was confident, or he was content. The president is content with the current constitution, because it probably and truly gives the part of the country he comes from an undue advantage in his unitary regimentation, as opposed to the federalism that we all agreed upon at independence. Talking about functionality of local government, personally, as local government chairman between 1991 and 1993, and I know everything that is concerning local government autonomy of that. But what we are saying is that yes, local government autonomy is fine. We could have constitutional safeguards to ensure that local governments are quite functional with respect to the assignments allocated to them by law. And so we are saying that before we get to that stage, let us look at the justice of the local government system in Nigeria. The justice of the local government system in Nigeria is that today the federal government has no business in creating local government. And the national constitution of Nigeria has no business listing local governments in the constitution with very cumbersome and impossible procedure of creating additional one. What we are saying are in the two federal states, there are only two federating units, the federal capital territory and the states or regions as you may have them. It is not acceptable, for instance, that local governments are created by the military, have a Saturday and a Saturday, and they put such local government in the constitution without more. It is not acceptable. It is not acceptable that Kano, Jigawa, and Katsina State, we have 105 local governments between them. Kano 34, Jigawa 27, Katsina 34. And all the 5 states of southeast Nigeria, we have 95. It is not acceptable that Ogun State, that was created since 1976 with higher population, with larger size, we have 20 local governments. And Osun State, that was created in 1996 with lesser population, with smaller size, we have 30. That is what we are saying. We are not even restricting it between north and south. Osun State today has 30 local governments. Ondo State is bigger than Osun in both size and population. So if you put Ondo 18 and you put the Ekiti 16 to it, the combination of both Ondo and Ekiti, we have 34 local governments. We are only also have 30. What kind of constitution is that? That is what we are saying, that local government should be, and effectively so, the business of the state. Delete them from the constitution, create a constitutional framework to make them strong enough not to just be a mere appendages of the state.
Okay, before I let you go, Chief, what's your take on the ongoing constitutional review that is going on?
That is, you are just asking me the obvious. We have made that statement at the Federal level, and I was the one which was credited as the Secretary General that the ongoing exercise is an exercise in futility. All those efforts, we are not just saying it. In 2005, it went around the entire country. In 2007, 2007, he went through the entire country. In 2011, this will be about the 5th or 6th time that the National Assembly, since 1999, will go around and say they are doing consultations for the purpose of constitutional amendment. They cannot amend the Constitution because the Constitution as it is today is skewed in favor of some elements that constitute the majority in Parliament. So we now let go. But at one point or the other, Nigerian people have sat down and have documents that the National Assembly can make use of without going around. In 2014, there was a national conference of which I was privileged to be a delegate. All the 500 or so resolutions were arrived at by consensus of every segment of Nigeria. If the present administration was not pleased with what the letter did, they set up their own committee led by Governor Rufai of Kaduna State. At the end of the exercise, the report that Governor Rufai committee brought, which was based on even what they call town hall meeting, it was not even a seminar meeting, town hall meeting the people, was exact copycat of the 2014 conference. So let them put together these two reports. Let them bring the 1963 very, very federal constitution and look at it the way it is. And at the end of the day, we can enact it into the constitution, and it will become a constitution that is given by the people of Nigeria, rather than the one that was given by Absalom in 1993, that now fraudulently was given by the people of Nigeria. That is my take, Daniel.
Okay, that was Chief Shola Ebisheni, Secretary General of Afenifere. You just listened to him, trying to explain, make sense of what restructuring is all about. Do you share his views?
I think absolutely. Barrister Shola Ebisheni has very clearly articulated the major issues in our demand for restructuring. Let me go back and tell you something about the injustices of the Nigerian state. The old Sokoto state, which was divided by the military into Kebbi and Zamfara states, has now 9 senators in the Federal House of Assembly. The implication of that is that those who are a product of that injustice, because those who divided Nigeria were largely military leaders from the north. And their strategy, which we didn't complain about at that time because we were not focused on the injustices they were bringing in. Nigerians were more united, more Nigerian at that time, until the emergence of this leadership that has clearly shown that it seems as if these things are deliberately being done to skew advantages for one region against the other. Those injustices cannot be said to be fair because the Constitution recognizes them as being there. If we are in a democracy, one of the first things we should do, just like several African nations did after their independence from Imperial Britain, was to change their names and write their own constitution. Now, why do we have to keep on and say that what the military has done must be justified and held and defended? Acts that were acts of impunity, acts of criminality done by those who have now assumed the position of leadership over Nigerians by the barrel of the gun cannot be said to be just. How do you say that Lagos had 20 local governments? Sokoto, which was on par with Lagos, now has 3 states. From having 9 representatives at the House of Rep, they now have, I'm sure, minimally 27. How do you pass any just law when you have skewed advantages for one region against the other? These are the things we are talking about. And you cannot say we should keep silent because the Constitution is there. No! We can't keep silent.
Okay, if really restructuring is the way to go in Nigeria, if restructuring will bring about justice and fairness, why are some people against it?
I think that those who are beneficiaries of the injustices of the military, and I do say with little apology, majority of those are from the north.
Is it that proponents of restructuring are not really getting their message across clearly, or people on the other side see them as being too combatant about it?
Not necessarily. Look, Nigeria is a very complex state. So, and you will be hearing agitations for restructuring from different people with different motives. We are as complex as our ancestry. There's no Nigerian anywhere. We are Igbos, Yorubas, Hausas, whatever we are, from different places, having different stories. But the Nigeria is the chain that binds us together. If the chain itself is created from injustice, if the chain itself continues to strangle the citizens, if the chain itself will not allow the people to develop at their pace, then that chain cannot be right. That chain cannot be just. Nigerians have never agitated against the Nigerian state like now. The simple reason is that the injustice, the product of the injustices of the military, which has been further underscored by a government who seems not to have understood that its primary responsibility as a federal government is to make Nigerians feel comfortable in the Nigerian state. This is what has heightened it. This is why Nigerians are shouting. I don't have a problem with anybody. We've lived together as Nigerians. But you can't tell me that what is good for the goose cannot be good for the gander, and expect me to say all is well. No! Whatever will be will not be. We must have a country where whether you are Igbo, you are Fulani, you are Hausa, you are treated equally anywhere you are. You cannot take the sweets from a child and expect the child not to cry. I asked a question and I ask it again. Why is it that we have the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation for the oil in the Niger Delta? Why don't we have the Nigerian National Gold Corporation for the gold in Zamfara? Barrister Abisheni said it very clearly when he said the man that is in charge of the revenue allocation for the country, what percentage does his own state contribute to that? What percentage? That he should now be the one sitting in charge of how money that is gotten from Lagos is spent for people that are in Adamawa or in Kebbi? Why should we take money that is gotten from one region and then allow another person to be in charge of it? And then because we say that we are a federal government, look, go to the Niger Delta. The president, the one we have now, even before he became president, how many states, apart from when he was in service, when he was commissioned to be whatever in whatever place, how many states, how many local governments in Nigeria does he know? How many states has he visited? If he sees an Ijoman, I'm asking this question. No, I'm asking. Okay. If I see an Ijoman now, I will immediately know that this is an Ijoman.
Definitely.
Because there's something that, so if you are leading a country like Nigeria, you must understand the people that you are leading. And you must make it your priority to visit the people that you are leading. That is what creates peace in the minds of the people that we are all being carried along.
Okay, let's quickly look at the letter from Nadeko to the United Nations. They also copied the United Kingdom, the US, European Union as well, the European Parliament, the Prime Minister of UK, and the House of Commons in the UK as well. Let me quickly read the excerpt of that letter. Nigeria's current situation is so deplorable because of the imposed centralist and unitarist 1999 constitution, which was manufactured by a military clique and imposed upon us. Ethnic nationalities who were building blocks upon which the British colonialists constructed Nigeria had clamored, appealed, and cautioned the sectional military wing ruling Nigeria as surrogate for Nigeria to return to federal constitution upon which Nigeria secured its independence in 1960. But their interventions had always been met with disdain and provocative responses. Nigerians have never accepted the suspension and abrogation of the negotiated independence constitution. Agitations for a return to federal constitutional governance using the 1960 and 1963 independence and republican constitution constitutions as the working papers have been very loud, persistent, and popular by ethnic nationalities and others, with the youth of the South and the Middle Belt, who constitute about 65% of the latest statistics of Nigerian population, have resorted to strict actions leading to political instability, incohesion, and mutual distrust that worse than what the situation was before the Nigerian Civil War. In essence, they are saying that Nigeria seems to be on the verge of that ethnic hostilities could break out, and that the United Nations should do something. Like I said, they also copy the United States, the United Kingdom, European Parliament. What is your take on that letter?
Look, I truly and totally support.
Shouldn't we rather be looking inward to provide solutions to our own problems rather than?
No, this is looking inwards. We are a product of British imperialism. Who is a Nigerian in the first place? I keep saying, and I argue this again, that while we have been given independence and while we have retained our colonial identity, we still remain British citizens. And so,
Commonwealth citizens.
We are in the Nigerian passport. It is written there clearly. We are citizens of the Commonwealth, and the head of the Commonwealth is the Queen. So we are still British citizens. So if we have agitations, to a large extent, we should still go back to those who created us this way. If you have a problem in your body, you go back to your God. The God of Nigeria is Britain. The ones who created it, who named it, and who created the structure we live by. We marry according to British tradition. We live according to British tradition. We dress according to British tradition. I don't even understand my language again because I've been born to respect what is British at the expense of who I am. I've even lost my language. So we are still British. And so we must go back to Britain and ask Britain to take responsibility for what he created. You cannot create a nation like this and leave it.
How effective do you think that move could be?
Britain,
the move by Nadeko.
It is going to be very effective, and I hope that they will add to the arguments that they table before the British Parliament the fact that Britain had 3 constituent units in Britain representing the United Kingdom in a competition where nations are expected to be single.
The ongoing Euro
2021. We have the Portuguese there representing Portugal. We have the French representing France. We have the Netherlands representing their kingdom. We have the Germans representing their kingdoms. We have 3 nations representing the United Kingdom. We have the Welsh, we have the Scots, we have England, the English. So what are you saying? Why can't we have 3 or 4 or 10 nations representing Nigeria in international competition, which gives us an advantage, an opportunity to win? Because while all the other nations had 1 country, Britain took 3 there. If any of those component units win that competition, the glory will still come back to Britain, even though it is a Welsh victory or a Scottish victory or an English victory. That's what we are saying. You can't, in the UK, there's constant competition between the different, the Irish, the Welsh, and all. The competitions are largely on the building of their individual traditions and their customs. But they have acceded that the United Kingdom would handle things of military, of customs, and all. They also understand that the effectiveness of the British military has made it difficult for any region to want to say that, okay, we will be independent and create our home. Where are you going to start from? In Nigeria, what is the unique advantage that the proponents of one Nigeria are putting on the table? Those who are saying that we must not restructure. What is let them tell us the unique advantage of being in Nigeria. A military that is being dismembered by mere terrorists, or a country, airports that are, you can't even celebrate anything. For any nation to say that different component units or different ethnic units must come together, that nation must provide a successful central government. The central government must be so successful that everybody wants to be of the center. But our own central government is the underscoring of human failure in governance and all. I'm not insulting anybody. Go to England. Go to the United States of America. Let's not get into that. Okay, go to the United States of America. There are Texans. There are people in the northern part of America. There are people in the southern part of America. Their culture is different. As a matter of fact, the way they speak English is different. But the reason why everybody is proud, the Mexicans are proud, the Portuguese are proud, the Africans are proud to say I am an American, is because there's a successful American story. We must make Nigerians succeed at the top. Where, look at when we go to for football tournaments. That success gravitates Nigerians together, solves ethnic problems. Immediately, you feel a sense of empathy towards your brother. So anybody, any party, whether it's my party, the PDP, or the APC, or XYZ, the purpose, the job, the short-term job of anybody that is president is to encourage all Nigerians to be united. And you do that by being fair at all times.
Okay, because of our time, how do you think that we can successfully have restructuring in Nigeria?
First thing, let those who are in charge of the country at the moment understand that there's a time for any party to rule. When they leave government, they will come back to be on the side of those who are asking for restructuring. So while they are in power, let them do everything possible.
Just like the APC was asking for restructuring when the PDP was in power.
Let them do everything possible to make sure that we restructure now for the future of Nigeria, so that we can all live in peace. One of the things you don't want is for people to raise their agitations either on tribe or on religion. Once people that want Nigeria to be destroyed begin to inject those conversations, it will be difficult. Let us not distract Nigerians by saying, go and be struggling for local government autonomy. That's a distraction. Let's give them what will solve our problem. I want to compete with the Igbo man for industrialization. If he is able to create cars, if I see him creating warplanes in the East, I will know that my future as a Yoruba man is in peril. So I will force to also develop myself. It is that mutual development that brings respect. That's why Germany cannot attack Russia, because they know that the Russians have the capacity to defend their own existence. We must do that together and then live in peace together.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zaddok Akintoye, for coming on to this edition of the Roundtable. This is where we draw the curtain. Thanks for being part of the program. My name is Dimeji. Good afternoon.